Hello everybody.
Hello.
This is Alison Gross and Marquis Forneus. I have been running a fever all day, so I look and probably sound like shit. And if I'm sniffling and coughing a lot, that's why. But Forneus wanted to record this, so we are doing so.
Yeah, this is kind of a... What?
You
This
wa-
is a thing.
you wanted to rant.
Yes.
I used to rant a lot when I was your age. I miss it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, look, he's so cute.
Oh. Come here, kitty.
Come be in our video,
yes,
Loki.
Yes, he's coming, hopefully. So, I hope this won't just turn into a rant, because I actually want to have a discussion about this.
Okay, so the thing that we're going to talk about is what, like, male privilege in Gamespace or something.
Well, I think we're going to focus around Anita Sarkesian.
So
Mostly.
there's a video that's been posted on her site if you haven't seen it. That's like 25 reasons, 25
Invisible benefits.
Yes, you need to move this way a little bit. This is not. So. And they a lot of the benefits I think are a little bit overlapping. They talk about how women in game space experience harassment because of their gender.
And that's the key thing. Because of the gender.
Right. Now I do think it's kind of funny in that the guys that they had doing this speech thing, a lot of them looked and sounded very gay. and the thing that's
I think it's that they were more effeminate and more in touch with this kind of problem.
well, right, but the thing is that I can see those guys being harassed in game space because of their sexual orientation, even if they're not actually gay. They appear stereotypically gay and therefore would be subject to harassment. You can't.
But still, they're not being harassed because they're male.
No, they might be harassed because they're gay or appear gay. So, which is another issue in game space.
It is a truth that in humanity, because humans are kind of shit beings, we'll always oppress a minority because human beings are naturally prone to do that. Because it makes themselves feel big.
Right. The thing that's concerning about this is not that women are being oppressed. It's that people are so extremely virulent about the fact that they're not being oppressed.
Yeah, it's just like you don't think that somebody's going to be oppressed because of their differences. Are you insane? But besides that,
I mean, and one of the things that we were looking at, some guy, I don't even remember who it is.
we're not gonna name names. I think that's kind of mean.
It is, well, I mean, he is a YouTube personality. If you choose to post,
no, still, we're not gonna call a specific.
I
person
don't
out.
remember. We didn't even watch his video, so there's no reason
It was
to talk.
mostly us just reading the comments.
I don't remember his name, but I really hate him because he's posted a number of videos that annoy me. But anyway, a lot of what really concerned me in a lot of ways was that there were a number of women who posted in the comments on his video saying, I have not been harassed as a female gamer, and therefore this is not a valid concern.
Despite the fact that one of the points that Anita's video made was like that.
Well, technically, it's not Anita's video; it's these guys. I don't know. I don't really know. She's promoting it.
Yeah. But one of the major points is that these women are expected to speak on their gender.
So I mean, I think that it's a relevant point for this podcast for me to say that I personally have never been harassed in gaming space because of my gender. However, where I'm coming from, I am not really a part of modern gaming space very much. I did play WoW for a while, but first of all, I intentionally played on a RP server which those servers tend to have a higher population of women and tend to be less competitive and stuff. And actually, every guild that I was in Warcraft was headed by a female. So I was never really put in a situation. I've always been very conscious of the potential for harassment, that I did not play at the level of most of the people I was grouping with. And sometimes people would get bitchy and complain about that. They never specifically said anything about me being a woman, but I always internalized it that way. But you can't necessarily blame them about it. But other than that one experience, I basically have had no experience in the online gaming community.
But you can say for sure these people acted this way because I was a woman.
Right, but I mean, I don't go and, like, say, play Call of Duty or something like that, which is where I hear a lot of...
You don't even play things like Minecraft, or you don't really play multiplayer games at all.
Right, that's just not my thing. Now, there was a lot more personal, like, face-to-face interaction in small gaming communities when I was growing up, and even there, I was never harassed because I was female. I was ostracized frequently because I was female, which is also kind of not okay, but it's not the same thing. I mean, you know, I've always taken it as the reason I've never received harassment is because, you know, I'm unattractive, so nobody's going to ask to see my boobs or something. It was mostly, guys just thought it was weird that I wanted to play video games with them, but it was never a sexual issue, let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm able to look at my experience and say, okay, this is the specific experience I had. I can explain the reasons why I had that experience, and that doesn't mean that I think that every single other woman who plays video games is going to have an identical experience to mine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that I don't like playing stuff like Call of Duty. I would not want to play WoW on a PvP server. And in environments like that, from what I've heard, that is much higher. So
yeah, competitive environments.
You know, one of the women that said, "Oh well, I've never been harassed." She said that she mostly plays on Steam, like in Gary's mod.
Well, there are things like Team Fortress 2 and Left 4 Dead, all the Valve games. But they're generally cooperative rather than competitive.
Right.
And she also said she played World of Warcraft.
Well, again, like I said, you know,
which is generally more cooperative, I think. Yeah. There is the P versus P aspect, but I say mainly the main appeal.
Okay.
The main appeal.
One word. 50 DKP minus.
Yeah, okay, there is that.
But I screened the guilds. It's not that you're competitive with your guildmates per se, but because you're all working together to achieve this goal, and frequently there is competition with other guilds that you want to be server first to down this boss. If somebody screws up, if you've got an asshole guild leader, they can be... Well, you saw the video.
Yes.
The thing is, I was always very careful to screen my guilds that I joined very carefully and make sure I chose ones that weren't going to be like that.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I tended to, even when we weren't raiding, I tended to run instances with at least some of the other people in the group were my guildmates. So the chances, since we were all in the same guild, they weren't going to, like, a couple of odd people were not going to single one of us out to harass, because then everybody else in the guild would get pissed at them. So I made sure that I stayed in a sheltered situation.
And you're definitely not saying that all women should try to remain sheltered. That's horrible, yeah.
No, I mean, I suck at first-person shooters, so I would never do something like Call of Duty or something like that.
I think you might like Team Fortress, but that's...
I mean, I liked playing Quake in high school, but I always felt crappy because I was bad at it. And again, no one ever said you're bad at this because you're female, but I internalized that.
Yeah. But women these days are saying that they are specifically receiving that.
Yes.
And I don't know. People are saying this, and everyone seems to be ignoring it.
I mean, I think it has a lot to do with the anonymity of the internet. Like, the people that I played games with, the people I played Quake with, were people I saw every day in school. I mean, they were sort of my friends. I mean, that's kind of debatable, but...
Yeah.
But, I mean, technically, officially, we were friends, and in any case, like, some of them were in classes with me. That's how I knew most of them. We would play Magic together during lunch, and we would go to the gaming store, hang out after school, and several of them were in my D&D group. Like, we had a history that we interacted, so it wasn't like, oh, I could just be rude to this person and just disconnect. And, like I said, I purposely made my experience in WoW one that was about community. So I made sure I was always around people that I knew and built community. So therefore, if someone tried to be a jerk, I was in a community of people that I knew. Whereas I think the harassment is more prevalent when you're in a situation where there's no accountability.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like the lack of accountability in the internet, which is why they try to shut down these discussions of harassment, because basically that's trying to do is create accountability.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think all people are like... You want to believe that all people who are against this are all, like, secret, you know...
The members of the
evil patriarchal...
Well, the evil, very sexual conspiracy.
Yeah. I mean, that's your natural thought. I don't believe that. I think it's just the natural tendency for nerds to, like... make rules and, like... Because it's just like, a lot of the arguments seem to go along the lines of, well, if we talk about this, it will end in censorship. And it's just like, that seems to be, like, there's no fluidity in it. It's just like, well, we talk about this, so clearly the end result must be that we censor all games that have women with boobs in it.
Well, no, we don't censor them. Hopefully we get to a point where we're mature enough that we don't need that.
Yeah, and, you know, basically they all seem to say is that, well, clearly the only way to do it is censorship. Despite the fact, in history, censorship has never been necessary to make changes like this.
I'm not in favor of censoring games that have women with boobs in them. That's not going to accomplish anything, guys. If guys still think that they want that, they'll just go get boobs somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's not the solution.
The solution is, you know what everyone's trying to do. Raise awareness.
But see, again, that's creating accountability.
Yeah. It's just like... Yeah.
I'm kind of appalled by the sheer, like, crap that people say on the internet.
Yeah. Even gender aside, it's fucking awful. How can anyone defend this? Oh, well, it's normal, so women should just get over it. It's just like, why the fuck is this normal?
Well, right, but that's the thing, is that normal is a social construction. I mean, everybody, people argue that, men are hardwired to want women with big boobs or whatever.
No, that's fucking bullshit. Men are hardwired to want women who look fertile.
I mean, the thing is that the women with, like, absurdly big boobs and tiny waists, that is what our modern society thinks is beautiful, is completely, like,
arbitrary,
opposite of what has been valued as beautiful in a lot of countries over the course of history. I mean,
the Middle Ages. Like, the Mona Lisa is a good example.
Well, you don't really see the Mona Lisa's body at all. You don't really know what she looks like.
Well, you know the...
I mean, she looks kind of like an old woman, but...
Yeah.
Like, in her face. But, I mean, I don't know.
And she also has a thing with the eyebrows.
Yes. But, I mean, a lot of... I mean, for me, for example, one of my favorite artists is William Waterhouse. Because he makes these really, like... sort of like dreamy paintings of nymphs and mermaids and classical goddesses in the woodland and stuff. But one of the things that I like about it is the women are small-busted and have outward curving stomachs. And the majority of them are painted nude and they're supposed to be attractive. And I'm like... Geez, so, like, 150 years ago, I would have actually been considered attractive. Wow, that's amazing.
The point is that you're not really bitter about this, but it just shows how arbitrary it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, then we go into things like foot binding and the women in Africa that wear the really long, like, neck rings and stuff, and those are supposed to be considered attractive.
Oh, God, foot binding.
To them, and...
Yeah.
I mean, those were considered attractive in those societies because the society supported it. In Elizabethan England, Elizabeth was the superstar, and she was very flat-chested. And women would actually put lead bands in their corsets to poison their breasts to make them not grow.
Oh, God, really?
Yeah, because it was considered... good to be flat-chested because she was the superstar and everyone wanted to look like her. So, yeah, it's not... It isn't... There isn't some, like, magical blah-blah-blah thing. It's very cultural construction.
Yeah. No, anybody says... Yeah. Anybody who says that men are hardwired, blah-blah-blah, has not studied history.
Well, right. I mean, the most common one is, in the old days, having really white skin was considered attractive because only the nobility could stay indoors and thus have white skin.
Now it's considered pasty and creepy. Ooh.
Yeah, because now it's the wealthy people who can pay to go to tanning salons or take vacations on the beach or something.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's an example of attractiveness that's a direct opposite of...
what it used to be.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's not...
and only the rich people now can pay for the ridiculous surgery.
Yes. So it's not a hardwired thing.
Yeah.
So, but nobody wants to admit that.
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading this really, like, horrible... A woman had written into a relationship advice column, and she would talk about how her boyfriend, like, when they would have sex, she was kind of heavy in the hips, and he would squeeze her hips and talk about how sexy they were and how he loved her full hips and stuff. But then, the rest of the time, like, whenever they weren't having sex, he would tell her that she was fat and needed to lose weight. And she was like, I'm so confused, what's going on? And what the advice people said was, well, men are actually kind of hardwired to like heavier women because it signifies fertility, like what you were talking about.
Yeah.
So when you're having sex and you're naked, he taps into that. But when you leave the house, social constructions comes down, and he buys into that, and he's like, oh, well, you know, if I don't have a skinny woman with me, I won't look manly to my friends or whatever.
And it's not because he's sexist. It's not like he's some raving, like... This isn't something he can control that well. We're not calling him a bad...
cultural conditioning.
We're not calling him... You know, we're not calling him, like, a horrible person. He's almost like a victim in this situation.
Yes. Yes, okay, so we're going back to the whole, like, because this comes up in a lot of the comments on Anita Sarkesian's videos, too, the whole thing about feminists being evil or whatever. And I bought into that for a long time, and I did the line of, I care about women's rights, but I'm not a feminist.
And now people have made up this egalitarian word, which it's just like, you know that it's just making a new word isn't going to fix the problem that other people are going to ruin it for you.
But
I could call myself egalitarian and like go kill Jews while I'm calling myself egalitarian.
well, yes, but
You know, I'm Christian. I know what it's like to be part of a group where horrible, horrible people ruin it for you.
those are just the straw Christians.
Yeah, well, okay, this is one criticism we actually do have with Anita Sarkesian is,
Yeah, we don't think that she's like completely wonderful and infallible. She does have issues. We just don't think she
But
deserves
she's-
what she gets.
whatever the case, what she's doing is positive.
Yes, she's trying to raise awareness, and I would not mind. Like, people have commented, and actually, like, so, and this was why I made Forneus watch all of her videos, and he wasn't necessarily super thrilled about that all of the time.
Yeah, like, I got really annoyed with some of her videos, but
But this is
In
why
the
I
end-
wanted you to watch them, because I'm not as knowledgeable about modern games, and I wanted to. I know that Forneus has played or at least researched or whatever a lot of the games she talks about, and I haven't. So I wanted to hear an insider's view on how she represents the games, and he did say that there were a lot of false representations.
yeah, well, the biggest one that I had was with God of War, where she clearly didn't know what the actual game story was about. But I think the main point she tries to make is pointing out the tropes even in good games. Because most people don't defend, like, the Mortal Kombats and the Soul Caliburs with the ridiculous things.
What's so horrible about Mortal Kombat? I don't
Well-
think the... Well, okay, so I'm talking about the old Mortal Kombats. I didn't think that there was anything particularly horrible about the women in, like, the early Mortal Kombats.
Yeah, I mean...
Maybe they've been boobed up since then, but I used to like them because I thought those women were pretty badass, and I don't remember them being, like, massively booby or anything.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's definitely Soul Calibur is the main contender. Like, she can point out Soul Calibur all she wants, and like everybody's gonna go, well, yeah, everyone knows Soul Calibur has a problem.
Well, yeah, but people still buy it. Like,
Yeah.
apparently they don't actually think it has a problem, but that's just
Well,
not the
they
point.
ignore the problems because it has good combat or whatever. And
I've never actually played Soul Calibur.
Me
I was
neither.
told that it's a good fighting game to play, but
fighting games like have to rely on their mechanics. That's
right. Well, okay,
fighting games aren't the stellar like paragons of storytelling.
No. But okay. So, in some ways, that makes it more egregious when you have like horribly booby whatever women in a fighting game, because since it's entirely mechanics based, there's no reason to have that.
Yeah, it doesn't really inform their characters in any way.
What was it? But I wish that people could have intelligent discussions with Anita Sarkesian saying, this particular point you made is inaccurate.
Yeah, like, I don't think you misrepresented this game.
It's just when people are like, oh, well, here's an inaccuracy. She is clearly evil and insane, and we should all piss on
wants
her.
to censor, like, yeah. Because, like, that fucking thing in Dead to Rights. What was it? The Western game?
Red Dead
Red Dead Direct. They all have so similar
Red Dead Redemption.
Like, yes, Red Dead Redemption does have a good story. Like, it's actually pretty interesting if you like that sort of thing.
Right, but the stuff that she points out as a problem with Red Dead Redemption
That
are
exists
unrelated to the story.
Yeah, come to think of it, this reminds me of a thing that somebody said. People equate, like, one, like, small part of the game as a representation of all of it. Like, Resident Evil, for example, has good, like, gameplay. Resident Evil has a story. Therefore, Resident Evil must have a good story. Because it's good in one way. And even the counter. Some people say Resident Evil has a crappy story or a badly written story. Therefore, everything about Resident Evil is crap. They seem to think in these black and whites. And
see, that to me goes back to, the thing of why, unlike most Ultima fans, I don't totally shit on Ultima 9.
Yeah, I actually really like Ultima 9. And Ultima 9 has a lot of problems. Like, a lot of problems. Why the hell are you making up problems to talk about it?
He does not like Spoony.
No, I really loved his reviews. I hate Spoonie's fans.
Well, no, but you're really pissed about the fact that he made up problems.
Well, no, it's whatever. That was one thing. It's his fans that I really hate. I genuinely enjoyed watching his review.
They're pretty hilarious.
Because it's just like the thing where it crashes every 10 seconds. It's just like, yeah, nostalgia. Oh, the game crashing. Oh, how I loved and hated it so. The game that taught me I needed to save every 10 seconds.
No, that's Ultima 8. And that game, I will say, is an utter piece of shit through and through. I'm still fighting my way through it.
The story's okay.
Maybe tell me that in 10 years when I stop having PSTD
yes!
about it.
Yes! Oh, God.
But, yeah, it's... like... For example, I mean, this is an example of how Anita Sarkesian is not advocating censorship. I mean, you could easily take out the more egregious examples of what she talks about in Red Dead Redemption without interfering with the player's gaming experience in any way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like, for example, there's no reason why you need to walk past a prostitute being beaten on the street.
Yeah.
It's not something that's part of the story, which is her point. Is that
it's part of the background.
Yeah, her point isn't that, depicting a woman in danger is necessarily bad. The point is that if you depict a woman being beaten as kind of a one-off thing and don't address it in any way.
Yeah, yes, certain things in history do have to be said. You have to forgive these people because it was part of the time. However, just expecting people to do that, because not all people are as intelligent as you and I. They weren't intuit that.
I don't know how common it was for women to be beaten on the streets of Western towns anyway.
Well, it was common for all people to be beaten on the...
Well, but...
It was fucking savage. Whoever was strongest.
Well, I've read, and I tend to read more, maybe I'll comment, I can comment more on this when I've done more research into it. But... prostitutes in the Old West is one of my research topics, and so far I have found no reference to such a thing, but I said, I need to research it more. Or the thing where you get an achievement for having a woman get run over by a train.
Yeah, I don't know if it's specifically a woman. I still haven't looked that up yet. But still, it is referencing,
Yeah, I mean...
The fact of rewarding a player for doing that is, yes, it's kind of funny. That doesn't stop it from, reinforcing tropes.
And again, that's something that could have been removed with very little effect on the player's gaming experience. Again, we're not talking about censorship here.
We're talking about making games better. Do you really want... I mean, okay, using, artistic criticism has never made anything worse, or really kind of...
I disagree, but whatever.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, okay, so, I mean, when you talk about that, I immediately start thinking of literary criticism. Okay, literary criticism has not made actual literature worse. It's made studying literature worse. So,
yes, it's made, but that's
so
different.
So that's not quite the same thing, but
yeah. Has Citizen Kane really affected movies? Has it made movies different? Has movies existing like Citizen Kane... I mean, all movies these days aren't like stupid pretentious art house dramas, and yet the stupid pretentious art house dramas still exist. Not that Citizen Kane is stupid and pretentious, but you get my point. Like, you know, the problem is how pervasive this is. In a vacuum, all these, like, games would be perfectly fine.
Well, I don't think Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball would ever be fine, no matter how vacuumed it was. But,
Yeah.
Jiggle
physics.
The thing that I have a real problem with is the whole concept about gaming being a safe male space.
Yeah. Can't we just go back to gaming how it was? I mean, do you really need this? Do you really need Ivy from Soul Calibur? Is she that important to your
but
experience?
what she represents is.
Like, would Ivy being there or not really affect your enjoyment of it? Like I said, fighting games like it, people who play fighting games generally like it for the mechanics. Therefore, like, the games being more inclusive to women, is that so bad?
Well, yeah, because then guys have to deal with it, and they have to feel guilty about mistreating women.
Yeah.
See, if we admit that women are being mistreated and that that's bad, then men have to... See, it's not about games being censored, it's about men having to censor themselves.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and censoring yourself, there's nothing illegal to that, and it's not illegal for a reason. That's just part of society.
What, censoring yourself?
Yes. Or, you know, thinking that maybe you shouldn't say certain things because maybe you'll be ostracized exists so people don't do bad things. Like, that's not censorship.
I mean, so if people are talking about wanting to go back to gaming being a quote-unquote safe male space, I mean, when it truly was that, it
never really was that, though, either.
Well,
not originally, it turned into that.
Well, that's the thing, is that back when I was doing it, we were all ostracized. Like, it wasn't safe at all. We were all harassed from the outside. I mean, but I participated in gaming as a safe male space. I sat there while all of the guys belched and talked about porn and everything. They never censored themselves around me. And I mean, looking back on it, I can see how that was very damaging to my self-esteem in a lot of ways. But it was still kinder than the type of online harassment that exists now. In order to go back to it being that kind of space, we have to go back to before the internet, which is never going to happen.
I mean, jerks will always be there. And trolls will always be there. The problem is, the people who are doing this, a lot of them aren't trolls.
No, it's like people these days get a kick because they can just go and say something mean to somebody and there's no consequence. And
like, yeah, that's not okay. Yeah, like, I don't think we should just write that off as a fact of the internet. Like, I don't know how to fix it. That's kind of a...
Well, I mean, so...
You know?
I mean, one of the things that I always think about when this comes up is the fact that you and I met over the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew each other for, like, at least a year and a half before we ever met in person. And everybody told me that I was insane and that you were probably some creepy dude and to not trust you and everything. And, you know, and I had never thought really that you could have a real connection with somebody. I mean, I knew that you could. Like, when I was in one of the Warcraft guilds, our guild leader died. Like, quite literally, one day, just a note was posted on the guild forums by her sister letting everybody know that she had died the previous day. And people were, like, I knew people who cried over that. I mean, so I did know that it was possible to feel a real connection with somebody over the internet. And then I met you, and it wasn't. It just wasn't an issue. I felt just like you were one of my real friends that I interacted with in person. And I think, I mean, I don't know. Maybe because I've always been striving to get back that gaming experience of when I would actually sit there with my friends in game. I'm always acutely aware that there's another person on the other side of the computer. And I guess people who didn't have that experience don't think that way? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, did I? I never really had that experience. I always grew up gaming by myself. Yes, I was the pathetic loner gamer.
Yeah, but you're a very unusual individual as well.
Yeah. If you say so.
Well, I mean, you are a scrupulously nice person. And so the idea of doing something in order to be hurtful is just not something that would ever occur to you.
Well, no, it would occur to me a lot. No, what are you talking about?
Okay, only to me. But
No, being hurtful for the sake of being hurtful occurs to me a lot. I mean, I just don't do it.
yeah, this is kind of ranging much farther than the issue with video games, but I feel like there's
Which is good. We can split this up. I don't know.
I feel like society in general has this need to avoid responsibility.
Oh, yeah, especially American society. God.
Forneus does not like the American society. It's kind of amusing.
Yeah, it's... Ugh. Fucking politicians can get away with saying that they're Christian? And they get votes for that?
Oh yeah, and they get not votes for not that.
Yeah... Like...
Well, not just Christian, Protestant. Like
Oh yeah, it has to be Protestant. Can't be Catholic.
Nope, we've only ever had one Catholic president. It was a scandal. They're like, oh no, he's going to hand the country over to the Pope. Ooh.
Yeah, the world will end. And...
But yeah,
just fucking America. Anyway.
like a lot of things, like for instance, America's obsession with financial independence.
Yes.
Which
isn't, I guess, the worst idea in the world. It
has to do with the
I don't know,
reason that I find it so horrendous is because of the reasons. Like, people say financial independence is crucial so that you don't have to answer to anyone.
Yeah, no. Like, pushing people to financial independence, I would say, is definitely better than pushing them to financial codependency.
Right.
I think the ideal situation is find the thing that works for you. Of course, but, you know, people... There has to be one right way.
I mean, I don't see any problem with financial interdependence. Like, I mean, honestly, I don't. But I especially don't see a problem. I have had financial interdependence my entire life. And what I have learned from it is not that I can just be wasteful with money. It's taught me to be extremely careful with money because it's not just my money that's on the line. I have responsibility to other people when I share finances with them. And the reason that most people in America are so hard-line about financial independence is because they don't want that. They don't want to have to answer to anybody else.
Despite the fact that when you live in a society, you're gonna have to do that.
Yeah. And it is similar, like...
And you have to live in a society because human beings need social interaction, so...
Oh yeah, that makes me think of that occult hardcore guy that we knew that is trying to find himself by like
You mean
crashing in people's basements.
you mean the thelemic?
Yes. And how you told him
Yeah.
to go live in the forest.
Yeah, no, that was my suggestion. You want to be isolated, go live in the forest. Build
Yeah.
a cabin.
Yeah, he was obsessed with divesting himself of material possessions, and his solution was to therefore go and crash in other people's houses.
Yeah.
Which, it's like, no, that doesn't work.
He just wants to sit around all day, espouse philosophy, his own philosophy,
Yes.
which he probably lifted from other people, and and just have everyone tell him how awesome he is.
Yeah, that people...
Which is, like, perfectly human. It's like the purest expression of what a human being actually wants, but the fact that
Yes.
he's just so smug, it's just like, I'm so enlightened because I found out that people are shit.
And that I want to bang everything that moves, and that makes me an awesome person because I admit it.
Yeah. No, it doesn't change the fact.
And going back to video games, he's like, oh, I modded Skyrim to make it harder.
Oh god, yes, and I was just like, oh, it sounds like you trying to make it like Dark Souls. You ever played Dark Souls? This isn't exactly how the conversation went out, but yeah, it's just like, I kind of regret it because I basically kind of showed gamer superiority.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It's just like, oh, Skyrim. Oh, I'm gonna go back to Dark Souls, despite the fact I've never actually beaten Dark Souls.
Well, no, I mean, the thing is that he was the one that was bragging about how hard he'd made Skyrim.
Oh god, yeah, it's just like, oh. Yeah. He probably made it more occult too.
I don't know how you would do that, but I'm sure there's a mod for it.
Yeah, the more occult, more hardcore mod.
It's like the dragons all have pentagrams on them or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
women in games.
I mean, that was another example of a thing where nobody questioned me about being a female gamer. He never... I mean, he seemed, like, super eager to talk to me about it, never, like, questioned my gaming cred or anything. Of course, I also think that he had other things in mind, and that was... yeah. Because he was always really big on telling me about how he wants to bang everything that moves, so...
Yeah.
And I politely ignored him.
Yeah. Because he was a pretentious douche.
Well, yeah. I mean, also because I have no interest in people who want to bang everything that moves.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Like, does seriously anybody really want that? Because it makes you feel less special then.
I don't know. I mean, maybe people who are desperate. Well, I mean, but like, I'm desperate, but I'm never that desperate.
Yeah.
Like, well, okay, so I want to sleep with people who are desperate because they're not able to get any. Not like people who are desperate because they just want to have sex constantly. Yeah,
I felt like he was desperate despite the fact he's basically willing to do anything.
Well, yeah, he had his big sob story about now that he's older, like he's not attractive to women anymore or something like that. And I was trying to tell him that, you know, maybe you should start by being less of a dick, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, as you get older, like, people are less willing to forgive your negative aspects.
well, I don't necessarily think that that's a good thing, but well, it's not that it's a good thing that they're less. Well, I think it's a it's a bad thing that they are willing to forgive your negative aspects when you're younger.
I don't know. It's kind of like a karmic retribution. Like, you've made use for the fact that society is shallow, and now you're paying for it.
So how many years do you have left before you can stop trolling me?
Sorry, what?
I said, how many years do you have left before you can stop trolling me all the time? Because you've gotten too old, and I won't tolerate your negative aspects anymore.
I don't know. We'll see. Anyway.
Yeah, I just wish that people could have an intelligent conversation about this topic instead of just
Talking past each other.
Well, I mean, I feel like Anita Sarkesian is mostly attempting to have an intelligent conversation about it.
Even if she is a bit smug sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, she makes a point to say at the beginning of each of her videos that there's nothing wrong with liking video games. She's just trying to...
I've just seen people, like, say things that are just wrong about Anita Sarkesian. What, that she wants money? It's just like, it's Kickstarter. It's... and she
See, whether or not she, like, you know, first of all, she didn't steal money from her backers because they freely gave her that money, but whatever. Whether she stole money from backers or she stole artwork or whatever, the point is that these people wouldn't give a shit about it unless they had, like, a violent paranoia against the topic she's addressing.
Yeah. Like, the people... It's generally not her backers who are saying this.
I mean, the thing is that there are people on Kickstarter who have literally taken the money and run.
Yeah.
And we don't see people...
Well, no, they get the shit that they deserve, but Anita seems to be getting more.
I mean, the thing is, these people are just doing anything they can to discredit her, and it's not...
Yeah, it's just like they call her a liar and a thief. It's just like, how is she a thief? She's gotten her money from Kickstarter. She's been spreading it out over years.
I mean, again, her work
And I'm
is
pretty
not
sure
flawless, but you can't... I mean, I guess this is another...
Gandhi wasn't flawless.
Oh, no, Gandhi was not flawless at all.
And yet he did a lot of good.
So this is one of the things that I find a little bit odd. The thing you showed me with Movie Bob about how you have to give both sides, blah blah blah.
The fairness doctrine, yeah.
Yeah, or you're a fanboy, like.
Yeah.
I was very puzzled by that because I found exactly the opposite to be on the internet. Most of the people who post are like raving, insane people on one side of an issue or another.
Well, yeah, those are the fanboys.
Okay, so. Yeah, so I mean, I am not seeing anything.
It's generally like, I don't know, it's for things like PlayStation versus... No, you're right, there are always extremists on each side. I don't know what he was talking about. Maybe this is something older, because that was an older video.
Yeah, I think that's what you told me at the time. I seem to recall we had this conversation. But yeah, it drives me crazy because... They're just these insane, like, people just can't discuss things reasonably. It's like, I am right and
Yeah, oh god. Just watching atheists.
Now you're opening a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, let's not go into that this video.
No, we'll save that for another video.
I mean, I mentioned religion before because I think that Christianity often does apply a lot to feminism because they're both things that were originally positive that some people ruined, and now all people are being held accountable to that.
So, I mean, basically, let's put it this way. He's a Christian, I'm a feminist. But that doesn't mean that we like or agree with all Christians or all feminists. We have massive issues with some of them.
Yeah.
That these labels don't... Okay, I don't want to say the labels don't mean anything, but just because you put on a label like Christian or feminist doesn't mean that you espouse everything
that any Christian or feminist has ever said.
Yeah. That we fully acknowledge that there are both Christian and feminist nutcases out there.
There are atheist nutcases, and there are perfectly reasonable atheists.
Okay, well, I have yet to meet a perfectly reasonable atheist. But...
Well, usually they don't go around saying, God doesn't exist! I'm atheist, so I'm smart!
I thought we weren't getting into this topic.
Sorry, yeah! I can't help it. Like, generally the reasonable atheists aren't the ones that go around saying, I'm atheist! Everyone tell me
Okay,
how...
well, I will say I knew an atheist who refused to go to the Reddit atheist forums because it made him so angry because of how deplorably they conducted themselves. So I will say that.
Okay, there was that one, yeah.
But yeah, the people who post on, for instance, on YouTube or whatever, and nobody say like, oh, it's just YouTube, you can't expect people to make intelligent comments.
Why?
Well, if we never expect... So I'm a teacher, and...
Well, we could never expect, like, race relations to improve, or...
yeah. Some people say I'm too strict with my students, but there are also a lot of teaching philosophies that say if you don't have high expectations for your students, they're never going to rise to it. Like, a lot of students, especially minority students, which is mostly what I teach, have gone through life with people expecting them to fail. And
well, generally more because they're poor.
Yeah.
But they happen to be poor because of, like, the history of their race.
But anyway, the point is that, as a teacher, I've been taught if you expect poorly of people, of course they're going to act poorly.
They're going to fulfill your expectations, like, no.
And having high expectations doesn't motivate everybody. I have a lot of students who fail, but I do also have students who rise to those expectations. And so I think just saying, oh, well, you can't expect better of people. I mean, I can expect whatever I want to expect, honestly. Like,
yeah.
I mean, what does it hurt having high expectations?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Like, is it wrong for me to expect, like, Christians to, actually...
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. This is another one of the huge things about women in gaming, is that people are like, oh, well, it's just... you can't expect better than that. Like,
why?
They're like, oh, boobs sell. You can't expect them to not have them.
Yeah, just because something sells doesn't mean it's like...
It's like, wait, why do the producers think that they sell? Because you buy it. Because you buy it.
But even besides that, why does because something sell like an ultimate defense? Blackface used to sell.
Yeah.
Even going back further, slaves sold pretty well. Well, they sold. Like, they were a great industry.
That's the whole point of the Civil War, was that
the North...
it wasn't about morality, it was about economics.
Yeah, and, like, it kind of did end up that the North did financially cripple the South, and the South was going, you're going to take away our slaves? Are you trying to ruin us?
This is another whole long thing. The history of the Civil War is also something that I have studied a lot. I went to the 150th reenactment of Gettysburg. It was awesome. But anyway, another topic that we shouldn't get into in this video because, yeah.
We want this to be a 6-hour video.
We're almost to the hour mark. We should probably think about wrapping this up.
Never.
Oh, come on. I'm almost out of Gatorade, too. And I need to, like, blow my nose and maybe have ice cream or something. But, yeah, I mean, that people use you can't expect better as another defense. That it's saying, like, wait, if you're part of that constituency and you're telling us we can't expect better, what does that say about you? Yeah. So, yeah, I just wish that...
people seem to be offended when I compare, like, anything sex-related to race relations.
Yes.
Like, I think the thing is, it's like the thing I was talking about before. I compare a small part of it, and they say, well, you must think that absolutely everything is equal.
This makes me very angry because there's a lot of things that I feel underprivileged by because I'm female or because of my sexual orientation, but we won't get into that in this video. And if I try to talk about it or raise awareness or something, the response is, that's not a big deal, why are you... And if I draw a parallel between race relations or even other people's sexual orientations, because mine is kind of a weird, rare one, that, normal, like...
And some people just dismiss it, but anyway.
Yeah, if I draw a parallel to race relations or, like, standard heteronormativity things, people are like, oh my god, well that's a big deal. But, like, the whole thing about pharmacists refusing to serve to serve women at the pharmacy because they want birth control. And people have defended this, and I've said, well, what if somebody said it's against my conscience to serve black people or to serve gay people? And, everybody's like, ooh, no. Like, that's not okay, but if it's something that affects women, it somehow is okay. It's very puzzling and very frustrating. That somehow race and at least the more widely accepted sexual orientations are a lot more protected.
And the thing is that people seem to say that if something is a legal thing, it's bad. But if it's a social thing, it's fine. People are oppressed lawfully, that's bad. People are oppressed socially, that's alright.
Okay, but that doesn't affect, say, race relations. In America, when they did school integrations, I mean, it became legal to integrate schools. There was massive backlash against it. A lot of people endured and suffered a lot to either both with integrating schools and with black people voting. I saw in school a lot of videos about what people went through in both of these issues in order to... there was a video, it was a reenactment of what people went through to prepare to be, some of the first black people to vote in this southern town. Because they chose ahead of time who were going to be the people to go to the polls. And these people went through these trainings where their trainers, beat them, shouted insults at them, threw beer on them, on and on and on. Because they were like, people will do this while you are standing in line to vote, and you have to learn to stand there and take it. It was perfectly legal for them to vote, but the social climate caused people to treat them that way.
Mm.
And that, prejudice still exists, even if it's not legal. All of the things we hear about...
White cops.
Yes, that was exactly where I was going, the thing about white cops.
We don't really need to say anymore, because we all know it still happens.
Yeah, and let me say, again, with me being a writing teacher of many minority students, I learned about a lot of this because I received very, very strongly emotionally invested papers from them on these topics, on Trayvon Martin, on Ferguson, that this is really a major concern for them.
If they're afraid to do something because they feel like this is going to happen to them, that's a problem.
Well, and again, that was I was talking with one of my friends who's a, feminist race relations crusader, etc., 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 and we got into kind of an argument because I was saying that I can identify with, I can understand the feelings of, young black men who are uncomfortable going out at night because of the fear of the cops are going to pick them up. Or that they're going to be assaulted by some neighborhood watchman or something. You know, that the fear that because you were born a certain way, you cannot move about freely, you have to watch yourself. Because I am what I describe as a second generation rape victim. My mother was raped at the age of 19, and for my entire life, she did whatever she could to avoid ever being left alone at night. If my father traveled for work when I was growing up, she would, like, lock us in the upstairs and stay awake all night and sit next to the door with a baseball bat. And I grew up with this. And I didn't know what had happened to her. Like, she didn't tell me until I was an adult. But instinctively I knew that from a young age I have had this profound terror of rape because, unbeknownst to myself, I was raised in that environment. And when I am out at night or when I have to spend the night at home alone, I am very nervous. I am very aware of my surroundings. I usually have some sort of small weapon on hand. I know what it's like to be, because I was born this way, I cannot move freely. I have to have these fears. And so I have deep sympathy for those people. It's not identical, but it's similar enough that I know what it feels like. And I think that we should all work together instead of them saying, oh no, well, we have it way worse or something. And I'm not saying that all of them say it. I'm just saying that it would be better that everybody works to better all things rather than...
Yeah. Because, like, how are, say, gay people even gonna think about being represented as a because they're a minority? How are they ever gonna be represented if a majority, that is women, are not?
Okay, we've got a black president. We have not had a female president yet.
I do think the arbitrariness of saying, oh, what has our president been, is just like, that's... But whatever.
Well, when you're talking about representation, I'm just saying, like, yeah. And
I don't know. I would say that, like, I don't know, I guess the equivalent in this country would be senators. Do you have many female senators?
We have a fair number. I think, I don't know what the exact statistics are. I'm just remembering that, again, I was at the time of the 8 years ago standing in front of a classroom of largely minority students, and they asked me who I was going to vote for. And when I said I was going to vote for Hillary instead of Obama, they almost rioted.
Oh!
And they, like, put me on the spot. They demanded to know why. And I was, of course, trying to backpedal and be like, well, I really respect Hillary's, political, like, history and everything. And this one girl, God bless her, who was a very open lesbian feminist, in the back gets up and says, she wants to have a woman president, and there is nothing wrong with that. And everybody got quiet.
Mm.
And, like I said, I'm not going to say that everybody's like that, but that is an experience that I had, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be like those stupid people in the comments who are like, because I have not been harassed, that means it never happens.
Oh my god. And, I think we should wrap this up, because men are a victim of the sexism towards women as well.
Yes.
Because they are expected to participate in it.
Oh, yes.
You are not a real man unless you like women with big breasts and do all this stuff.
I had a friend whose boyfriend got sent an offer for a porn site. And, of course, he was a good man, being in a relationship, he turned it down. The next day, he got sent an offer for a gay male porn site. Because, of course, if you weren't interested, that must mean that you're gay.
Oh, God.
Yes.
And, yeah, maybe you should talk about, drunk basement lurker.
Oh, yeah. So, drunk basement lurker is... He's soon not to be anymore.
Oh, that's right. He's moving out of that basement, yeah.
Yes. Okay, so this is a guy who lived in my friend's basement for, 6 years.
Yes, we know. He's...
But But and because of that, he was kind of de facto part of our D&D game. And I eventually got really annoyed with him because he was one of these guys that bitched and moaned all the time about not getting laid. And, you know, in some ways, I actually thought he had kind of a charming personality. Like, he was kind of funny, and I felt kind of sorry for him. You know, I really have a thing for guys who are kind of traditionally unattractive, who are sort of awkward and sort of have trouble with women and you know, but he was always, you know, but then, and he'd be like, oh, women are so shallow, like, just because I'm fat, nobody will sleep with me, blah, 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 blah. But then he'd be like, oh my god, she has such great boobs, this woman and that woman are so hot, blah, blah, blah. And I really, like, wanted to go to him and be like, dude, I would not sleep with you, and I want to tell you that the way you look has absolutely zero to do with why I would not sleep with you.
Yeah, it reminds me of that thing from the Social Network. I already told you about that. It's not because you're a nerd. It's because you're an asshole.
Yeah, I was like, no, the reason I would not sleep with you is because I know from what you talk about all the time that I do not measure up to your standards for a woman. So I would always feel inferior and like you were settling for me because you couldn't get anything better.
Yeah. And that's the thing, from what your friend says, he's actually a sweet guy.
Yeah.
He's just a victim.
But he hides that because that's what's expected of guys.
Yeah, he's a victim too.
And I actually think this is a major issue in the gamer community, and this is why there's so much pushback against this. Because the quote-quote safe male space isn't really safe. Because inside of a safe male space, anywhere you see the gym, locker room, army, whatever, there's gonna be a ton of macho posturing. Which is one of the reasons I brought up the issue at the beginning of the video that a lot of these guys who were like making these points seemed gay, and that might bring them in for harassment as well.
Because they're not like macho posturing.
Right, and even though nerds, for the most part, eschew traditional macho posturing because they've been ostracized by mainstream masculine culture, there is a form of nerd macho posturing, and inside the safe male gamer space, there is an expectation to engage in it.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons I think there's such a huge pushback, because that is what nerd macho posturing requires to happen.
Yeah. Like I said, the men here are the victims as well.
Yes. Yes. And that's a whole other topic that I could get into as well, but I think we should wrap this up now because we've been going for an hour.
Yeah.
Alright, so we'll do this again sometime.
Hopefully, if this turns out well.
Well, I mean, we should probably do it in the future so there's not a light directly behind you. But other than that... Alright, bye everyone!